Good morning. Hi, it's Charlene Sinjenko, and I'm here bright and early this morning on day 7 of our final day of our Power Circle challenge called Vertical Lift. And I'm thrilled to be here this morning with Kathryn Pollack from Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining me this morning, Kathryn.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So this morning is kind of a culmination. It's the last day of our Power Circle, and the theme for today that we're going to dive into is liftoff. So the question that you'll see in your framework for today is, what do you need to let go of in order to fully lift off? And what I'm hoping to have you think about today is, what if our absolute natural state, what if we were born to rise? What if we were born to absolutely continually lift off? And honestly, our only job in our life as leaders, as people, as individuals who are continually improving themselves and exploring this whole thing we call life, what if our only job was to let go of or heal or learn or explore? What if our only job was to let go of anything and all that is heavy? So that's the concept for today. And I give you a little analogy. One thing that you may or may not, pick up about me is I absolutely love watching birds. Like, I love watching birds soar. I love watching eagles. And if you imagine, imagine an eagle trying to fly with a brick strapped onto its back, and then just imagine that eagle in its natural state. It was born to fly, and it does, and it soars. So that's kind of the analogy that we're going to keep in the back of our minds. So Kathryn, I'm curious. I have a couple of questions that I think will help us dive into our conversation. But before I do, I wanted you to have an opportunity to introduce yourself to anybody in the circle and watching the video afterwards that may not yet know you.
Sure. Okay, well, so thanks again, Charlene, for having me today. I'm not sure how much you can see in the background, everyone, but I'm here on my farm in Saskatchewan, and it's a Saturday, so I thought I should be outside and, enjoying the beautiful surroundings. I'm a mother of 2 amazing boys. I'm the wife of an incredibly supportive husband. I'm a leader in the provincial government. I'm currently Assistant Deputy Minister of Resource Development with the Ministry of Energy and Resources. But I haven't taken anything at all that would resemble the traditional career path. So I grew up here in Saskatchewan, and I moved to Toronto and Montreal and then Calgary to follow my passion as a professional dancer, and had an incredible experience and career doing that, and it's very much formed who I am today. And then I transitioned from the world of arts, oddly enough, to oil and gas and mining and utilities, doing a lot of public consultation work and dealing with landowners directly affected by projects, and really enjoy interacting and engaging with community members. I took my role with the provincial government a year and a half ago. And so even at that, not a traditional career path for government. So to come into government, into a leadership role, without having government experience, very much, not a traditional career path, and always interested in, working on projects and finding work that helps me grow as a person and learn new things about myself and soar. I think this is a perfect topic for me today. And I'm wondering if you can hear the birds. There are a lot of birds around right now.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting. And
amazing.
let me know if you need me to put my headphones on.
Yeah, no, it's perfect, Kathryn. Thank you so much for being here, and I think you know how much I appreciate and I am excited by the opportunity to get to be part of your life and to get to know you better. Um, One thing that comes up from your story that I just wanted to touch on for a second, that then we'll jump into our questions, is this. And the one thing that I've come to realize in this study, this self-study that I am having right now about leading and leadership, and you know that I'm just kind of disrupting this word and wanting to tear it apart and build it back together. Like, how are we really encouraging that higher level of what it means to lead? And to be quite honest with you, where I see it showing up best is when those non-traditional leaders, those non-traditional, in quotes, come into roles that allow them to lead and bring a whole fresh perspective and set of, ideals and values and beliefs into a situation. Like, that's honestly where I see some of the greatest change, transformation, engagement happen. And that's very much how I feel about you. And I just say that because I think sometimes we look at a situation and go, oh yeah, no, that's not for me, because we might not see ourselves in what's currently reflected.
Right.
I could have done the same thing, like entering into politics. And I mentioned this with Christina Benti when I did. I might have looked at a current situation and saw people that didn't mirror me and go, I don't think I'm suitable for that role. When in fact, what the role needed, in my humble opinion, was, some energy and fresh perspectives, and, somebody who was active and, engaged in my way. And thank goodness I also saw Christina Benti. So I think having you in your role with everything that you bring from your background, and that's why I wanted to have you on today, is not only refreshing, but absolutely necessary. I think it's great. And yeah. Um, so part of today's framework says, in taking action, today I will contemplate what I no longer need, what is no longer serving me, and what is potentially holding me down. And this is kind of a tough evaluation. Like, it's a bit of a, it's having a really good, honest look at ourselves. And I'm curious what would be your process in something like this that encourages people to really explore and go deep enough into the different areas of their lives. And are there any bricks on their back that they may not be looking at? Because let's face it, we're all fairly strong and we can just keep powering through, right? But really, it'll be so much easier to soar after this, evaluation and doing some work. So I was curious around maybe your thoughts around a process, or where you go with that kind of thing, of just that evaluation.
Sure. So, interestingly enough, just last week I was involved in some strategy work for an organization of which I'm on the board. And we spent some time talking about, strategy, focusing some of your strategy work on what you're not going to do is just as important as what you're going to do.
Right.
And so when I read your framework for today, I was reflecting on that and thought, if we applied the same rigor to ourselves
Right.
as we do to, organizational strategy, and took the time to say, I think we always were very willing and able, and we put the time into, focusing on what am I going to do? What's the new group I'm going to join, or what course
Right.
am I going to take?
Right.
Versus, okay, if I'm going to do that, then what needs to come off my plate? And so I think part of it is, taking that bit of a rigorous approach to ourselves, the way we do with our organizational strategy. I think the other thing is, for me, is creating the space in my life to really hear myself. So, whether that's giving 15 minutes in the morning for some meditation, or even as simple as, I'm driving to the city, I'm not going to turn the radio on or listen to a podcast.
Right.
Just going to be silence and being okay with that. And
Yeah.
so then, creating that space and then being willing to really listen to what your instincts are telling you, what little signs have been showing up to prod you in the right direction, and also signal this isn't working anymore. And then I think for me, the other piece of all of that is working on acceptance of letting go. Like letting go of anything is not easy, whether
Right.
it's, if it's a personal relationship that no longer serves you. I think a lot of us were brought up to believe that relationships have to last your lifetime, right?
Right.
But I believe relationships have a lifetime of their own. And some of them, reach the end of their life sooner than others. And being willing to let that go, thinking of work, or maybe it's a cause you've been volunteering for that you really love and feel connected to, it takes a lot of work to be willing to let go of that, or move on to a new opportunity. Or, the other one I've been thinking about too is beliefs. What are the beliefs that no longer serve you? Again, thinking back to how we were raised, and are those beliefs that I was raised with still serving me, and do they still align with my true, purpose and what I want to do and accomplish, and the legacy I want to leave behind. And I was thinking about, I think it was day 2, you had someone who was speaking about servant leadership.
Yes, Christina.
Okay. And I was reflecting on that as well under this framework, to think about, if we're being weighed down by things that no longer serve us, we can't really be in service to others as well. So
I love that you went there, because that's exactly what I believe. If we, it ripples out, right? Like, so if we aren't, and it goes even further, like beyond modeling. I'm not even going to we need to model that we can. I think it's an energy thing. Like if we're literally leading from a place of feeling weighed down, and that's kind of the undercurrent, then how can we expect our team, our business, our network, how can we expect them to like fully soar? It has to start with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. What I heard you say, just to recap in some really tangible steps, is in an effort to really hone it in, to super hone it in, start to really take a look at what you will no longer do, what you need to let go of with acceptance, rather than more things that you're going to do. And that always reminds me of that Michelangelo quote, when someone saw him making those amazing masterpieces and his sculptures, they were like, how do you do that? Like, it's so crazy. And basically he said, oh, it's easy. I just keep chipping away at what it isn't. And I think about that in terms of creating our perfect lives and creating the lives that we really want. Is we just keep chipping away at what it's not, and letting that go. So in terms of how, I heard you say, make sure and create space, and also just that the space to hear it, to hear any messaging coming in, and to see it, to observe what's showing up, and to accept it. and really look at our beliefs as well, because our beliefs tend to dictate our decisions, right? And the other point I like that you brought up is giving things a time frame. That, that certain things, when you say yes to something, it doesn't mean yes forever. It's okay to give things time frames. That really resonated for me as well.
Yeah, and I think, I've been thinking about this a lot too in the context of, you know, not trying to be all things to all people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you really helped me work through that, doing, working on my leadership pillars, and
Mm-hmm.
just really honing in on what truly speaks to me, because it's easy to want to be all of these great things and do
Yeah.
all of these leadership things and focus on everything, and we're only human and we have a limited amount of time here on earth and time in our days, and so if we want to make an impact, we have to be strategic about
Mm-hmm.
what we do and what we don't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I think our leadership, blueprint, or what we were born to do, is every bit as unique as our fingerprints. And part of the fun exploration, like what I love to do, is just helping to hold space or facilitate just that, the work that needs to be done to help us figure out what that fingerprint looks and feels like. But I want to dive into your dance background just a tiny bit, because, as you know,
Okay.
I love athletics. I love performance, and I know that you and I have talked about that elevated experience of living, of leading from that place of where you feel that you're operating from a state of flow. And I know that you've written about flow before, and that you've experienced it definitely within your dance career, as a professional dancer. And so I wanted to open it up just for a short discussion on, like, how do we get how do we get there? How do we stay there? How do we lead from there? Both for ourselves, but then again, creating that ripple out of that absolute effortlessness in that state of flow.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it is in one way incredibly simple, but in many ways it's a very complex topic and difficult, you know, journey to get there. But, ultimately flow is about being in the moment and, being so fully immersed in doing something, you're fully engaged. And so your whole being is there, your mind, body, spirit, however you wish to
Mhm.
to talk about that. Um and it's also, you flow is intertwined with, to me, with mastery or excellence, right?
Mm.
You can't get to flow if you're not highly skilled in the thing that you're doing.
Right.
And so, when you have a high level of mastery or excellence in something, and you're doing a task or a project that's highly challenging, that's when you can reach that state of flow. And
Mm.
so as an artist, it's somewhat it because people who follow a career into the arts, you're certainly not doing it for the money, you're doing it for the passion. It is a calling.
Mhm.
And so I think in the arts it's somewhat more intuitive to get to a place of flow because of that, and because
Mhm.
you train to be specialized in, whether it's dance or music or art. So I think, in the workplace, the way that I've been trying to take that concept into sort of the office or corporate world, whatever you want to
Right.
call it, is to take a strengths based approach to working with people and how we talk about our work. So just to take a little step back, I think that we generally, as human beings, default to the stuff that's wrong with us, right? What do I have to fix, right?
Right.
We very much, I think we're very attuned to all those things, most of us. And we tend to, if you even think of something as tactical as work planning, what shows up on the work plan is stuff
Right.
when it comes to competencies.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not strong in this, so I'm going to work on this.
Right.
And I had a real aha moment working with a leadership coach from BC, Rosie Steves, who she did a lot of work with a management team I was on. We had worked together for days on getting to know each other and digging through layers and peeling back the onion. And
Yeah.
we thought we knew each other, and then we went through that and we realized now we kind of know each other. And
Right.
at the end of that, she said, what if we all just focused on our strengths? Look around the table, got a diverse group of people, a diverse skill set here. And if everybody stopped putting so much effort on fixing their weaknesses, sure, you manage your weaknesses, but focus on your strengths, get stronger and stronger and hone in on your strengths. Imagine how strong this team would be. And that was a fundamental shift in thinking for me in terms of the corporate environment. And so, it's kind of shifting the conversation from what's wrong to what's strong.
Right. Right.
And so I think, ultimately as an individual, it starts with knowing your unique gifts and your talents, and, that for some people takes more work than others, right? Some people intuitively know that, or it was part of their upbringing somehow. And some of us just haven't tapped into that for a while. So figuring out what those are and playing to your strengths. So find work or projects that really help you hone in on your strengths and build them out. And I think as leaders, we can use things like assessment tools. The Clifton Strengths Finder is a great example.
Right.
So it's a tool that focuses on strengths. In my organization, we've been using it to also establish a common language around those strengths. So we all understand what, if I'm saying communication is someone's strength, well, what does that really mean?
Right. Yeah.
And then I think we can use those strengths assessments, in something as simple as our work plans, or helping us to build out diverse project teams. It helps you think outside the box a little bit. And then I think, ultimately, if we help people in our organizations or in our homes to be focusing on their strengths, playing to their strengths, the likelihood is, people will be much more engaged, right? You'll be happier,
Right.
more engaged. And so then ultimately, if we're talking about the workplace, we're going to have a more productive workplace, because we all know when people are fully engaged, that's when we start to get discretionary effort, and we're moving sort of into intrinsic motivation. And one other analogy I want to use, this is from a gentleman named Corey Rideout, who lives in Saskatchewan. He's a Clifton Strengths facilitator, and he's come to work with our organization a couple of times. And he talks about the strengths as a 5-pointed star. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Clifton Strengths, there's, I forget if it's 32 or 36 strengths that when you do the assessment, you're ranked in terms of, basically number 1 to number 32. And your top 5 are usually what the organization will focus on, right? Because it's a little easier to chew on.
Right.
And so if you think of a star, the 5-pointed star, if we focus on the weaknesses, which is in the middle, then we're going to push out from there, and we're not going to have a star anymore. We're going to have a circle or a blob, right? But if instead we focus on the points of the star and we just sharpen and tune up those the points of the star, that's where we can really shine as individuals, and our teams can really thrive, I believe. And I think that is a way to move people more and more towards a state of flow if we're using tools like that to help people understand their strengths and then direct work to complement their strengths.
I love that. And the visual that I get with that is if we're really honing in on what that 5-pointed star looks like, then those people that we're working closely with, either on our team or other leaders, our 5-pointed star then fits into their 5-pointed star, which fits into their 5-pointed star. It's like this conglomerate of starfishes, like that's the visual that I get. And it's cool because it fits into the other day I was speaking with Phil about, like, how do we take our relationships and our network and how do we up level our collective power within all of these relationships with amazing leaders that we work with. And that's exactly what I was talking about is, how are we really honing in on the power of the starfish, to really like fit together so succinctly that collectively there's nothing that we can't do, because we've just got it's this fabric of incredible resources and talents and wisdom, and you on and on from there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
I think key to that in the workplace, in terms of doing what you're talking about, which is really integrating, almost making this quilt or whatever of our strengths, is, creating the space for people to have conversations about their strengths. And how do you elevate that to, not just a yearly conversation, but an ongoing conversation. So for us, it's as a starting point, as simple as everybody has their strengths posted on their cubicle wall, so that before you go into someone's office or their cubicle, you see their strengths right there. Whammo, it's in front of you. And it can help inform how you communicate with people too, of course. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that, Kathryn. Well, thank you so very much for diving into this with me today. And between you and I, this conversation has actually inspired our next PowHERcircle challenge, which will happen next quarter. So I'll definitely dig into that with you a bit more. But to everyone that participated in our PowHERcircle challenge this time around, thank you for doing the work, for making space to grow, and encourage you to just finish off that day 7 and reach out and post and connect and stay with us again as we dive into the next one. Thank you very much, Kathryn, for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad my farm internet held up.
Me too. Take care. And thanks again so much for being part of the PowHERcircle Challenge, Vertical Lift. We hope that we have helped give you some tips and tools and insights to encourage you to soar to a higher level. Thank you very much.